Good morning and welcome to the DML estate. I'm sitting here with the big boss, Dennis Michael Lynch. And as you can see, we've added some more stuff here to the studio. It's starting to get filled in. We got a tree back there and lots of other, little accessories. And Dennis has even got an American flag behind him. So that's there. We're patriotic here.
What do you know?
Yeah. So, we have had quite a bit of news, actually, just in the last few minutes. We were watching Paul Ryan. He was giving a press conference. We were expecting, or we were thinking that there might be some news on healthcare. There wasn't. He was just touting the regulations that have been cut by President Donald Trump. Those regulations actually haven't really been rolled back with the help of Congress, though. Donald Trump's been doing it through executive order for the most part. So I'm not really sure why Ryan was bragging about that. But it seems like these two are trying to stand in solidarity with one another, President Donald Trump and Paul Ryan. I'm a little bit surprised by that. We've beat this horse to death, but to me at least, it seems that Ryan is playing for a different team. But we won't dwell on that. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update because Ryan was just giving a press conference. If you were on DennisMichaelLynch.com, you would see that we have a poll asking about Ivanka Trump. She's going to be joining the West Wing, and this was something that we had discussed in the past. Ivanka was always going to be a central advisor to President Donald Trump. That's something that we've known for quite some time. What's the new development here is that President Trump has asked Ivanka to join the West Wing in an official capacity where she will actually be an employee of the White House. This was started because there were concerns from ethics and lawyers from the ethics and lawyers team at the White House that there could be the appearance of a conflict of interest if you had an unpaid employee working in the White House. Ivanka Trump announced that she would be joining, saying that she heard the concerns that some had raised about her advising the president in a personal capacity. She said that she has been working in good faith with the White House counsel and my personal counsel to address the unprecedented nature of my role. Okay. So they're resolving this, and I think that's a positive step.
Sure. We asked the question today, the poll that you're just showing up there on the website. The poll asks, are you supportive of Ivanka's official role at the White House? And so the answers that we got back were, yes, I think she is a definite asset to the administration. That's at 94%. 4% of you said uncertain, and just less than 2%, said no, I think she will ultimately weaken Trump's conservative agenda. So the majority of people are saying 95%.
It's overwhelming. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Her poll numbers are very, very strong, as are Melania's. This isn't unprecedented. I mean, Michelle Obama was enormously popular even when her husband wasn't. And so, but it seems that, even though Melania really hasn't taken much of the limelight yet, she's still kind of been behind the scenes, though that's going to quickly change because they are moving to the White House. Both of these women in Trump's life are enormously popular.
I've said this many times before, and I'm always going to stick by it. I think it's going to prove to be true. I believe that Ivanka Trump offers an unbelievable, how do you say this? She makes people like myself who have confidence in the president, but would like to see some of the things that he's doing somewhat simmer down, maybe with the tweets, or the fact that he just has somebody around him that he 110% knows that he can trust. I like Ivanka being there because I know from my own experience of having a daughter, obviously not Ivanka's age, but my oldest daughter, if I'm going to do something, whatever it is, I mean, whatever, she'll say to me, Daddy, you sure? And I just know the way that she's coming about it is the way she's trying to protect me and at the same time trying to send a very subtle message of, I don't think this is really in your best interest or anybody else's best interest. And when I have her say that to me, my daughter says that to me, I stop and I think. Yeah. And so I would assume that President Trump takes that same sort of tact when he's with his Ivanka. I love this idea. Yeah. I love this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I'm glad that they're resolving this because in the long term, this was going to be something that the Democrats were going to use to beat her over the head, saying that she was advancing her business interests while being an unpaid employee in the White House. Now they've resolved that, so we can move on and we can actually get to work. So
you're damned if you do and you're damned if you
Exactly.
don't. If you're a successful business person, then it's fantastic. This is a great business person. They've done so well in their life, la-di-da-di-da-di. But then as soon as you turn around and you go into a public official spot, it's no longer, hey, this person's really good at what they do. They could be very good at helping run in the country.
Yep.
It's, oh, how are they going to benefit financially? You can't win. You go left, they say you should go right. You go right, they say you should go left.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say all the time, you have to just ignore this stuff.
Yeah.
The naysayers, just ignore them, move forward, do what you got to do, and prove with the results.
Well, and the next story that we have here is also on DennisMichaelLynch.com. Republicans are considering a delay of Trump's $1.5 billion border wall request. Some Republicans are pushing back against Trump's request to build the border wall and fund it this year. Congress is considering delaying the action due to the importance of a spending bill that must pass by April 28th. Roy Blunt, who's a Republican senator, told reporters that the bill is necessary to avoid shutting down the federal agencies whose funding will expire on that date. So we are potentially facing a government shutdown if this isn't resolved. This is also important. These dates are important. April 28th is important because in just a couple of days, Congress is about to go into a recess where they're all going to go home and they're not going to get anything done. As soon as they come back, they're just going to have I think it's 6 days or something like that, 6 voting days before we face this government shutdown. So this is serious. Blunt is wanting to do this not because he opposes the border wall, but he thinks that it will be controversial and he wants to save that for a later time to go along with other military program funding. So he wants to bundle building the border wall with defense spending. Maybe that's a good strategy. I was at first really concerned about this, Dennis, because I thought that there was maybe a cohort of Republicans on the House or Senate side that were opposing the wall for financial reasons. But after investigating this more, I've been reassured because they want to do this for tactical reasons because they don't want to see a government shutdown that could potentially hurt the president. And they just want to revisit this. I mean, do you think that at least that's what they're saying? Now, it could be BS. Maybe they're just putting up an excuse, but it seems reasonable in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, the wall. We've talked about this now for 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
The wall is a very expensive endeavor. It's one that's going to take a very long time.
Yeah.
As of today, I just heard that there are more than 200 firms who have already placed a bid or showed interest in placing a bid, of which, by the way, I think almost 40 of them are minority-owned companies, Hispanics owning them, right? It's an interesting tidbit there. But that in most cases, because this building this wall is so complex and there's so many different parts to it, most of them have come back and said, we have more questions. And so there's going to be a certain delay in that entire part of the whole thing. So, I go back to say, again, with the thing with the wall, what it is that you have to take into consideration with the wall is that this is not going to be one of those things where it's overnight. This is going to take a very, very long time. This is going to be a drastically slow process, no matter how hard anybody tries. Whether you're 150% behind it, or you're 100% behind it, or you're 80% behind it, this is going to take a long time. Aside from finally finding the people that you're going to hire to build this wall, you also have to now contend with all the different lawsuits and all the different blockades that are going to try to be put up by the environmentalists. Yep. So be ready, because this is going to be another one of those long, dragged out sort of things.
Yeah. Well, and moving on, this morning we woke up and President Trump at 9 o'clock picked a fight with the Freedom Caucus here. He said that the Freedom Caucus will hurt the entire Republican agenda if they don't get on the team and fast. We must fight them and Dems in 2018, saying that we must fight the Freedom Caucus. So this is a not so thinly veiled threat to members of the Freedom Caucus that he will work to primary them if they don't get in line. He's made this threat before, so this isn't really anything new. But the Freedom Caucus has already responded pretty strongly. One of their members from Michigan responded, "It doesn't take long for the swamp to drain President Donald Trump. No shame, Mr. President. Almost everyone succumbs to the DC establishment." So they're fighting back. This is the exact sort of civil war that could potentially be a distraction that gets nothing done. This is exactly what Democrats, I can tell you this is exactly what Democrats want to happen.
You know, when I was coming in, driving here today, I was listening to XM radio and going through the different channels. One of the things that I took a look at was I went to, I think it was Fox Business, and I was going to all the different ones listening. Yeah. And there was some woman, I've never, you probably know, because you're on the Fox stuff all the time. Mercedes?
Yeah, Mercedes Schlapp.
Oh, man. Schlapp?
Schlapp.
Is Schlapp's wife?
It's Schlapp's wife.
That says it all. Thank you very little. Rid of her. This is what she says, right? Okay. She says, the Freedom Caucus is completely to blame here. You know, there should be two things to be taken into consideration. Number one, defending the president's agenda. And number two, is what was the second thing she had said about it? Oh, goodness Lord, I couldn't remember. And then she said, the only thing that this bill didn't do, was lower premiums. I was like, wait a second. That's the thing. That's the thing. You know, that's the thing.
That is so dumb.
I'm 100% behind the Freedom Caucus on this one. As far as I'm concerned, this is one of those times when, you know, President Trump's going to look back over the course of time, and the American people should be looking at this and saying, thank you, Freedom Caucus, because it just doesn't lower the premiums.
Yeah.
That's the whole problem there is. You know, here's the problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't lower the premiums. It doesn't strip out that part. And so that's why it's very clear the Freedom Caucus doesn't have an out for President Trump. They don't want to sit here. Oh, I know what she said. She goes, they should have passed it because A, it would have supported the president, and two, because it would have defunded Planned Parenthood. So she put those two things as the key reasons why America should have been behind this thing. First of all, only 17% of people liked this bill. The majority, more than 83% of people said, I don't want this. And so the Freedom Caucus was listening to that. And you know what? I'm going to come back and I'm going to say again about the president. The president now pushing, you know, trying to force the Freedom Caucus to do this. My feeling is you should be pressing on the Democrats. It's the Democrats who are not helping at all. It's the Democrats who supported this stupid thing to begin with. Lay the blame on them. Put the pressure on them, not on our own team. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the Freedom Caucus is going to only double down on their support for lower premiums.
Mm-hmm. Well, and who could oppose that? That's the number one thing everybody's complaining about. I mean, the mandate's one thing. That should be, I mean, it's already been resolved through executive order, right?
Yeah.
So...
Look, if the Freedom Caucus was coming out and saying, we're not for defending people who have pre-existing issues, you know, pre-existing conditions, and they were trying to pull something out like that, then I'd sit there and say, you know what? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Put pressure on them.
Yeah.
Put pressure on them. What are you thinking about? You know, but it basically comes down to they're saying, wait a second. Everything that you've put forward does nothing to lower the premiums.
And it's worse than that, because then it means that the Republicans and Trump would own the disaster of Obamacare. It wouldn't be Obamacare anymore because they sold this as a repeal and replace when it really wasn't that. And he would own it as a political liability in the coming years. It wouldn't have gotten to the core of the problem, and he would have owned the repercussions for it instead of letting the Democrats continue to own the consequences for it. So anyway, he did. I still believe in hindsight now. I really believe that the Freedom Caucus did him an amazing service by opposing this. Moving on, we see that the president of China will be meeting with President Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. This is something that I actually think is very interesting. I've noticed a difference in how President Donald Trump hosts foreign leaders. We saw it with the Japanese premier when he was visiting, and they went golfing in Mar-a-Lago, and they actually seemed to spend a lot of quality time together. It seems like Donald Trump's taking a similar tack with China, but this does come on the heels of like a very aggressive tone on China when President Donald Trump was running. So there could be some awkwardness in the room. I mean, China was kind of held up as the boogeyman, if rightly so. You know, I mean, they have flooded our markets with cheap goods that have put Americans out of work, and Donald Trump called them out for it. And they've manipulated their currency to make their goods even cheaper. You know, we're not competing on a level playing field with them. And so I think that there could be a very tense conversation to be had between these two world leaders next week.
I think this is one of the reasons why President Trump says, hey, let's have the Chinese president come and stay at Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago is going to be a more comfortable setting. There's going to be, and there's always that little Mar-a-Lago crowd that will be there and whatever, and it feels good and whatever. And even if you walk out on the golf course, you do whatever it may be, it's a more comfortable setting. So I think if there's one thing that the president would be good at, is that he will be able to make the president of China come in and feel very, very comfortable. So a lot of times that's it, especially when you've got,
and it's also, he's coming to talk to Trump on his turf. There's a big difference. It's the same reason, you told me this, it's the same reason that, when a big guy's doing an interview, like a head of state, or, even Sean Hannity was doing an interview on 60 Minutes. He didn't go to 60 Minutes to do it. He didn't do it at some third-party studio. They came to his set. And they filmed him there. They're coming to Donald Trump's turf, and he'll be very comfortable there. And I think he'll be hospitable as well. But it's a power move too. And it's not a third-party location like the White House even.
Right.
So
anyway,
it's interesting. So we'll follow that. That's coming up next week, and that's probably his biggest state visit other than the United Kingdom so far. And even in some ways be bigger than the United Kingdom because of the trade consequences. So the next thing actually is it stopped me in my tracks, Dennis. The president of the European Union is so upset that Donald Trump has been voicing criticism of the European Union that he says that they're going to start working, and I think this is a little bit of hyperbole, but they're going to start working to break up the European Union. The United States. That they're going to support secession movements in Texas and Ohio to make a point. And so, how does he get past this? Or does he? Does he go head on with the European Commission and start? This feels to me like it could be another one of these foreign policy distractions that Democrats will hold up in 2020 as he has turned his back on NATO, he's turned his back on the European Union, we can't even get along with our allies. That's what they're going to be saying. So does he try to make nice, or does he double down and this fight continues? There
are certain times when I think that the president's sharp elbows work against them. Specifically this morning with Twitter at the Freedom Caucus. I don't think it's going to get us anywhere. There are other times when I love his elbows, when he swings them around and he stands his ground and he says, hey, I'm the leader of the free world, and oh, by the way, we are the United States of America, and if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. This is one of those times where I think that he has to just show absolute strength. Come on, Texas, secession and California and all this other. It's absolute ridiculousness. It's absolute ridiculousness.
So you think he's got to rise above it?
He's got to rise above it. He's got to rise above it. I've stopped guessing. I've stopped guessing on those things. I have been more surprised on so many different things over the last month that I would. When I make a forecast, or when I make a prediction, or when I say, hey, it would be smarter to put tax reform on the back burner because it's going to be too hard to get through and you can't get a second loss, I make these deductions based on a few variables. Number one is that I studied this stuff extensively. Number two is, and not only in studying this stuff, I had to come up with solutions for it. And when you're on a stage and you've got 500 people coming to hear you speak, and then you do Q&As, and somebody says, excuse me, what would be the first 3 steps you take for solving healthcare? You better have 3 steps, and that's why I did. So that's why a lot of times I'll talk and hey, I know this, and this is how I do it, and this is how I do it. If I look at something from the standpoint of a tweet that's going out, I just use the fact that I understand, my own negotiation of what works and what doesn't work. I don't have any reference here. There have been certain things that he has done over the last week or two, actually the last month, that I have no reference. I have no, so it would not be an educated guess. It would just be a guess. And that serves no interest to these people just saying, oh, how does Dennis guess it? Or how does Harlan guess it? And it's got to be based on something.
It's going to be informed.
I would have never have guessed that you would have a tweet going out against the Freedom Caucus today. I would have thought that you would have just pounded on the Democrats, take what happened last week, try to smooth it over, pretend like, hey, we're getting our act together as a group, And that tweet this morning, and that's what I thought was taking place, to be honest, because that's what I would have tried to do. I think that's what other people wanted to do. Hey, let's go back to the drawing board and try to figure this out if we can. Here was the big, huge problem we had, Mr. President, was that 83% of America don't like this because the premiums aren't going to improve. And then we get this tweet this morning. So I'm confused.
Yeah.
If this is more like a lot of people who are, who will defend President Trump no matter what, and I get it. I totally get it. I love the loyalty. I got the same people who do the same thing for me. But if this is all part of the art of the deal or part of a big, huge plan and a huge scheme and, moving chess around, one guy always sends me an email every single day. You don't get it. The president's playing fifth dimensional chess. I don't even know what fifth dimensional chess is, all right?
It's impossible.
You're playing checkers and he's moving chess. I'm not playing with anything. You know what I'm doing? I'm writing a check next month for my healthcare premium. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. And then I'm going to keep on doing that just like all the other American people. So my guess is, well, I shouldn't say my guess. My take is that if this is a big, huge fifth dimensional chess game, when do we start seeing some of the wins? When do we actually call checkmate? Does that come soon? Because we need that soon. So if that's it and I don't get it and that's above my head, I'll take it all day long. But all I want to see is the people on the other side of the screen have their rates go down and my rates go down and your rates go down. And I want to address something too before we go, because we're going to make this a short one today for a couple of reasons. Number one is we want to see how long it takes us to export a half-hour show. Number two is we have, I always refer to Mark from Iowa. Mark from Iowa is here with us today. So we're going to be doing all the last final touches we have to over the next 2 days to ensure the fact that the new DMLDaily.com is launched on time and it has all the right components for you. As I've told you, and I want to mention to you again, there's different components of this DMLDaily.com. First of all, it is going to have a platform for you, if you will, to where it is that we have taken the algorithms that I use. I always talk to you about how it is that we check certain things to make sure we're always publishing good stuff. Well, it's going to be a website that's not only going to have links to articles you can trust, which will be on DennisMichaelLynch.com, but it will also have what it is the left and the right are putting out as stories and give you the ability to see how we actually rate those outlets based on my algorithm, and therefore you can determine for yourself, is this fake or is this not, before you even take a look at that entire article. Number two, and maybe more importantly, is that it has a 24/7 at the very top video player, almost in a sense, if you will, TV. And right next to it, just like you're seeing right now on your Facebook feed there, is that you will have the ability to do live chat. Now, I will give you an educated guess right now. I'm looking at this screen. I have never, ever in my day, back even when I had half the size that I have today on Facebook, have I ever had a crowd that equaled 1.3 thousand, 1,300. Never. I get 1,300 when I'm blowing my nose for the first 20 seconds every time I start a Facebook Live. This is unequivocally, without any question, 100% Facebook, sitting in the back. Facebook. We have gotten more complaints over the last 3 days about Facebook not putting us in a feed, making to where when you go and you click on the Dennis Michael Lynch DML Daily page where it just says cannot load data. I cannot share this, I cannot share that. I got more screenshots sent to me than I know what to do with. So today I'm writing a letter to the legal department at Facebook, and I'm writing a letter to the investor relations at Facebook, and I am taking every single last screenshot that I have received that has any validity to it. I'm taking all the different messages that I have sent to Facebook every single day with screenshots. I'm taking the information that we got back from the people at Facebook who actually answered to us last week, because we pulled a string to go through a channel of somebody we knew there, and the person sent us back information on how to fix the problem on a program that doesn't even exist anymore for more than a year. $52,000 we have spent on Facebook in the past 12 plus months, and this is what we're getting, all right? So I can assure you of a few things, and that is that we are no longer relying on this crappy, can't find its buttocks with both hands platform. And I assure you that more conservatives and more people like myself are going to slowly but surely take their money away from spending it with Facebook. That's a given. All right? So I can tell you right now, Facebook, you're a big guy, I'm a little guy, but I like the story of David and Goliath. We know who wins at the end of that one. All right? So you should be getting geared up right now, all of you. DMLDaily.com. It's going to be open for business on Sunday starting. It's going to be Monday. That's where we're going to be here with our live stuff. That's the way we're going to transfer it to be. And Facebook, this is what you get, man. This is what you get. Sooner or later, people become innovative and they figure out how to do it if you're not going to do what you promised. That's what's happening right here, right now, and that's that. And so take it as you will. So I apologize for those of you who can't get our content because they just won't give it to you. But the last thing I would ever do is build a business model based on Facebook, whether or not they want to give me some time today or not give me some time today, and whether they want to answer me with a real person or with a robot. All right? So you know what? You can do whatever you want on your side, but we're going to do what we have to do on our side. Make sure that you do the following things right now. Number one, if you do not have the DML app, you are making yourself a grave mistake if you like what we do, and especially if you've donated to anything here, because odds are this is only going to get worse with Facebook. So make sure that you go to DennisMichaelLynch.com right now and put in your email address. There are places all over that website there that allows you to put in your email address. At the bottom of every single article, there's a space for it. There's a space on the bottom right. There's places all over it. You can put your email and you submit it. This way you're on our email list. The second thing, other than downloading the app, which you go to the iOS store and you go to the Google Play and you search for DML app, and you download it, and you should keep the notifications on. If you're one of those people that you just don't want the notifications, fine, turn them off, but just make sure you go in and you check from time to time. And then the other thing, which you should do, is that you should send an email to wetrustdml@gmail.com, because worst case scenario, at least we have you that way, and we can stay in touch. But it's dmldaily.com. That is what's going to be next week, and we are going to start pushing everything in that direction. And yes, you will be able to communicate with each other 24/7 around the clock. You won't need Facebook. That's it. You have anything closing comments before I say God bless?
I never got a notification from Facebook about this. I got it from the app.
Got it from the app. Never got a notification.
And I used to.
Yeah. In fact, I'm frozen right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm showing I'm frozen right now. So it's all right.
Anyway.
It's all right. You know what? Facebook's going to play the game. I told you 6 months ago. It's another one of those times I could say, I told you. All right? I told you 6 months ago to sign up for the text alerts. That's another thing you could do. 40404 on your cell phone if you don't have one of these fancy schmancy phones, right? 4040 is where you dial, and then what you put in the message is follow at Real Dennis Lynch. And that should give you back a notification on your cell phone that you are now following us. And whenever we put out a notification that we're live, you will get it on your cell phone. And we could go about it that way. So we're going to conclude on this. It is now officially 30 minutes. Let me part by saying, may God bless you. May God bless our troops. May God bless President Trump, the United States of America, and to those poor people who work at Facebook and say, why are they making me do this? Adios, amigos.